Good morning everyone. Today we are going to walk east of the village and climb that hill you can see in the background. That is Nottingham Hill. It's nowhere near Nottingham. I don't know why it's called Nottingham Hill, but it is. Hello horse. I used to live in central Cheltenham and I moved out to this little village here about 6 or 7 years ago, and this hill dominates the view from my living room. If I sit on my sofa, that's what I look out on. And so when I first started going for walks in the countryside, I climbed that hill. I climbed it many times. And I must admit, I got slightly bored with the route. It's quite an arduous route. And I tend to walk other places now. I've branched out. I walk around the base of the hill and visit the villages around there. I can hear dogs barking. Must be the local dog walking companies. They use the fields around here to exercise dogs. And there's one just to the right here. I can hear the dogs, can't see them. Yeah, but I'm recording a lot of these walks for old time's sake. I want to have a memento because they've meant a lot to me. I've got a lot out of it. I just shut off the camera as I went through that field. People more extrovert than me wouldn't be bothered by sort of talking and being surveyed as they film, but I'm still a bit self-conscious, still a bit new to this, so I skedaddled through. There was a dog walking company just dumping their dogs in the field. If you're a farmer around here, you have to show a bit of entrepreneurial zeal in how you use your land. You have these acres and you've got to make them pay. And a lot of them rent out fields they've let run fallow to dog walking companies. First thing in the morning they'll show up with a van and they'll fling open the doors. And a whole herd of dogs will come tumbling out. Labradors will go bounding into the field. Little sausage dogs will come toddling after. And having the time of their lives, frolicking in the grass. That's one of the ways the farm back there makes their land pay. They also do a pottery business. There's a little outshed back there, apparently. You can book in groups of 4 and go and make your own pottery. Actually throw some clay on a wheel. And they'll put it through the oven for you and help you glaze it. Hello horse. What are horses out today? Anyway, we're heading this way. I come this way a lot. I mean, most of my sort of initial routes leaving the village tend to be fairly similar. Instead of walking around the hill, as I usually do, we'll go up it. Because it's been part of my personal mythology, as I explained. It was the first sort of hill walking I started to do when I moved to this village. Although visually it's not the most interesting route. I've done it a million times. Far more times than I can count. And I just want to get it on camera because you never know when something's going to happen. You're going to have to move house or you get like a dodgy knee or something. And your walking days in this particular part of the countryside will be over. So I would like to grab a memento. It occurred to me to do that a couple of months back and then the weather turned amazing, so it seemed a good idea to seize the opportunity while we got these blue skies and get out here. Ground's very hard at the moment. I don't know if you can see it. It's baked dry, sort of cracked and fissured. Apparently this is in Western Europe, this is the driest spring for about 100 years. Which doesn't bother me so much. because I'm out here walking in wonderful blue skies, but it's trouble for the farmers. I mowed my lawn a couple of weeks ago and the grass hasn't grown back at all. It's just turned yellow. Garden's starting to look like that kind of scrubland you get in southern Spain rather than the English countryside. The farmers have got the same problem. It's the time of year when they plant their crops, and this is the main sort of growing season. They'd expect rain to help their crops grow high, and they're just not getting any. Let's try and squeeze over this level crossing. This is the crossing for the steam railway, and I've checked their calendar and nothing much is happening today. Some days they just don't run any trains, and today is scheduled to be one of those. But just because they aren't running paying passengers doesn't mean they won't be shifting locomotives or wagons around, so best to pay attention. And onward. Let's go and have a look at the view through this hedge. This isn't actually a footpath, but I'm sure the farmer won't mind if I just look through the gate. I did this a couple of years back and sunk knee deep in the mud. So one of the reasons for filming this kind of stuff in the summer is a lot of this place becomes absolutely impassable. But right now it looks fantastic. I do love this area of the Cotswolds. Some of the villages around here are very popular. There's a town called Byberry, which has become a tourist destination because I think it was in a Jude Law movie called The Holiday. And loads of people from America and China and Japan go and visit it. Odd thing about this little sort of rural part of Western England, although it's just fairly innocuous farmland, it's become part of the tourist itinerary for people from abroad if they want to see somewhere quintessentially English. And this little village of Byberry is getting about 50 coachloads of tourists a day, 20,000 people a week, and they're having to build park and ride schemes just to try and cope with the volume of people coming through. And I've got to admit, if you're local, if you live in this area, you tend to avoid villages like that have become part of the tourist map, which is why I like this area. Because it isn't self-consciously a theme park version of rural England, it's the real thing. It hasn't been Disneyfied yet. I'm just about to make the great ascent, climb the steepest bit, which is this sort of rubble track just here. I brought the kids up here during COVID. We did a lot of walking during COVID. Everyone had to stay home, but those of us in the country knew we could walk in the fields a bit without the danger of passing on the disease to anybody if we had it. And I taught them a trick for climbing hills, or it's a method that I've adopted. See, if I look at the top, it's a bit overwhelming, the thought that I have to climb all the way up there. But if I look at that tree in the foreground, I can tell myself, well, I can make it to that tree without a problem. And you just walk to that tree and you rest a moment. And you look a bit further on and there's a bush and you think, well, I can certainly make it to that bush. And so in small stages you make it to the top. Well, this is the spot where we circle the top crown of the hill. And this bit takes us through some woodland. There's sunlight through the leaves. When I used to come walking, I wouldn't bring a camera when I initially started out. I told myself I'd be living in the moment if I just came out with nothing. And it was a nice idea, but I found in the end I was zoning out, I was daydreaming, compiling shopping lists. Sometimes I go for a long walk and barely remember having done it. So I started taking a camera, a stills camera, and taking pictures, and it's true, you do notice more if you take a camera and start wandering around and making an effort to notice detail. And it's the same now. I started bringing my phone out and videoing. I'm seeing the wider landscape, the shapes of it. Seeing it as I share it with other people. I think perhaps that is how it is with country walking, or some kind of walking. You go out into the wilderness, you know, the fields and hills, expecting to find some kind of peace or wisdom or some kind of religious experience. And you expect it to be waiting for you, sort of lying on the ground. And maybe I'm just slow on the uptake, but I think the way you arrive there is to engage in a creative relationship with the landscape. A hare just ran across the path. There are rabbits and foxes here, I've seen them. And deer, but inevitably they're going to keep out of my way as I go galumphing through. But yeah, like I say, part of enjoying the countryside, I think, is you have to engage with it somehow. It's like meeting someone. If you just brush past them in the street, you don't know them. But if you stop and talk to them, you're kind of getting somewhere. And it's the same with woods, hills, or wherever it is that you are, and you go out to explore. You need to stop and talk to your landscape. Photography is one way of doing it. And painting and drawing, but I don't have those skills. I think I might do, but life is short and you can only develop so many aptitudes. My thing was always writing. And maybe I should try and write about the countryside. It's hard to find the language. I mean, look at the sunlight on that track heading up there. How do you put words on a page and convey that? Thousands have tried. Well, I've reached the crown of the hill, or as close as we can get. The actual crown of the hill is arable farmland. I don't think we can walk across it, but we're pretty much at the top. And now we're just circling. Let's go and have a look at the view now we're this high up. Looking down on the town of Cheltenham here. Don't know if we can zoom in. Those big buildings you can see over there at the very centre of the screen, that's Cheltenham Racecourse. In the 18th and 19th century, the racecourse was on top of that hill over there. But the modern one's down there. And every February and March, Cheltenham gets about an influx of about 250,000 people, a lot of Irish people. And they come down here for Cheltenham Race Week. And there's a whole week of racing that culminates in the Gold Cup race. It's one of the big events of the racing calendar, apparently. That and Royal Ascot. I suppose if you're American, it'd be the equivalent of the Kentucky Derby. And if you see this hillside from a distance, there are these sort of depressions in the side of the hill. like someone took a giant ice cream scoop and scooped out some big chunks. And that's because it's a quarry. All this Cotswold stone you can see, the wall we're passing and the farm up ahead, the stone was quarried out the side of the hill. And Cotswold stone, it's quite well known. It's become one of those, almost a cliche, you know, like paint colours have these lyrical names like Lavender Meadow. Well, if you go down a garden centre and order a bag of scree for a path or flagstones for a patio, they may offer you Cotswold as a colour, on the understanding it's a golden type of stone. And apparently it's Jurassic limestone. This entire area we're walking through used to be the bed of a tropical sea about 200 or 300 million years ago. Well, the Jurassic period, wherever that was. Just trippy to think about. And it is this lovely golden colour you can see up ahead. Somebody's restored the side of this farmhouse, or cleaned it at least, so it's looking fresh. That kind of stone tends to go grey after a couple of 100 years, but that's looking freshish. And people say we like that kind of colour, we gravitate towards it, partly because it looks foody. That kind of yellowy golden colour, if you had to describe it to anybody, you'd end up using food analogies like butter or cream or a kind of toasty warm. And they do say that as an evolutionary trait, we do kind of like that colour. We find it pleasing because our brains associate it with food. Noticing a lot of the farm stuff's been around here has been spruced up lately. Maybe a new farmer's taken over. I think this is one of their ventures. Buy grass-fed beef direct from this farm. Beef on the hill at gmail.com. Pick my way down the hill without tripping over. The farmer built a barn a couple of years back on the top of the hill. We just passed it. And again, he quarried out a bunch of this limestone and he's laid it in this path here for stability, because in the winter this track is an absolute quagmire and he probably can't get his vehicles up it, and certainly the cattle that sometimes use this field can't get up it. So he put all this quarried stone, broke it up and scattered it. One time I was walking up here and a bunch of fell runners came herring past me. I don't know how they have the cardio to run up one of these hills. I definitely don't know how they have the agility to run back down, I mean sprint, on this loose stone without snapping their legs. I wouldn't get 10 feet without injuring myself. Winding my way back home now. The hill was so busy today. I haven't been up for a couple of years, but there were so many dog walkers and joggers. Pretty much every bit of filming I did was a sort of snatched moment of solitude, sharing the paths with a ton of people. They've built a bunch of new houses lately. There's a few more people have moved into the area, maybe all finding the footpaths. Well, that's okay, I'll have the place to myself in winter. A lot of the people out walking at the moment are kind of fair weather hikers. When the first rains come in the autumn, I'll be out with the big boots and the hiking poles, enjoying my empire of mud. All the fields and hillsides I have to myself. Which makes for arduous walking, but the solitude is nice. And you get to sit and maybe have a little stove fire, which is not something I'm doing in these videos because the ground is too dry. So you can see how sort of cracked and fissured it is. Well, the grass is drying out. Having any kind of open flame fire would be a bad idea. Well, I'm going to crack on down this way. The nice countryside is going to give way to some very boring streets in a minute. So I'll sign off here. Thanks for tagging along. I'll see you next week.